Patrick Cook here. Hey, thanks for joining me in the next session of our Mandelbulb 3D tutorial series focused on building a full animation. This is session 44, so we're making some pretty good progress. Now, in the last session, I was talking about the dynamic fog. We talked about the ambient lighting. We talked about the object lighting. Now, so in those previous sessions concerning lighting, you have most of what you need to utilize lighting for your animation or your still. This session, let's go a bit further and explore some of the other controls and see if we can kind of pinpoint where they might be useful or relevant to you in a project. Now, all right, so turning our attention to the lighting tab. We have talked about the global lighting up here. This is the light source angles. We had talked about the object, which is really the light that it emanates from the object itself, okay, or reflected onto. It's referred to as diffuse lighting. We had talked about the ambient light, and that's the light that's in the air. It's light that's not directly from a source, but it's reflected around in the environment. The ambient light can be very important to help you develop shadows and give the scene a sense of depth, and of course coloring. And of course we had talked about the dynamic fog as well. So now, so those are key settings. Let's go back to the object and let's explore a couple other options that we have for working with lighting and colors within the Mandelbulb 3D fractal design environment. Now, okay, now let's talk about your diffuse coloring. If I click on this, let me, I'm going to leave this, I'll leave it down here, okay? Now, so basically, this color chart is showing you the range of colors that can be established, that can be set into your fractal scene or onto an object. It determines the color range that you have to work with. Okay, now right now we're looking at a range which is all pretty much what they would refer to as grayscale. There are no colors involved other than white and black, or a combination of white and black, which, as you can see here, is gray. All right. So now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on random here just to get us started, Okay, so I've clicked on random. My image has automatically been updated because I have the auto update image checkbox checked on. So any changes I make in my color gradient is going to be immediately reflected up on my screen. Now, of course, the navigator screen is not modified until I pull over the parameters, in which case the coloring and the lighting will be pulled over to the navigator. But but rendered out in a lower resolution. Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually close the navigator because we don't need that for our lighting at this time. I'm going to close the navigator and I'm going to take that screen space and pull it up here where we can see it a little bit better. All right. So I have used the random button to give me a color variation. Now, this randomization, I don't have to randomize. I'm only doing this to kind of get us started and to get a bunch of colors into this color range. Now you'll note here that there is a number. Now that number can go 1 or 0 to 99. All right. Now if I pump that up to 99 and now I hit the random, you'll see here that the colors that were selected by the software, random colors, are more towards the prime colors. Prime colors, okay? If I was to do, say, 50 here, just for comparison purposes, random, all right, don't pay attention to the actual colors, all right, because I'm sorry, don't pay attention to the variety of the colors because that's randomized. What we're looking at here is really I guess, the hue or the shade of the random colors that were selected. And I'll put this back down to 1 so that we can see the difference. All right. And so basically the 1 through 99 is our kind of like our scale. They call it a random multiplier. Basically, if you want colors that are more towards the prime colors, pick 99. Black, you know, a bright yellow, you know, reddish, purplish, that sort of thing. I like to be down around 1 because typically I don't want harsh colors in my Mandelbulb scene. Now, I could, let's see, I could do a 0.5 in here. Look at that. Now I've kind of almost moved, my hue has really been dialed down. I'm almost in a pastel type color palette. What if I was to go 0.1? Okay. So I have control over the intensity of the colors in terms of moving from a very low hue all the way up to a very bright. I'll do it one more time here so we could see a very bright prime colors. If I'm working with a scene in which these prime colors, these intense colors would contribute to the scene, then certainly I have the ability to get my color palette more towards the prime, or I could really get down here and get very subtle colors. So this is the color adjustment that I was able to retrieve by clicking on the diffuse button. All right. And so far I've actually exercised the random to give me, I don't know, a starting point. And you could very well say, hey, I like that. Well, let's just punch it some more times. All right. Or maybe you'll put this up to 12. I'm just picking a number. All right. You know, these colors really don't work for me in this particular fractal scene. I may have situations where I have a very well-defined Mandelbulb fractal object and I want bright colors. maybe a spinning top that looks like a toy, and I might come all the way up here to my more prime numbers. But in a scene like what I'm developing here, those don't really work. So I'm going to get myself back down to, say, 1. Well, a little bit better, but I need some work there. I mean, I could sit here and punch random until I get something close. Okay. All right, so I'll stop there, and then I can begin to actually modify these color bars, which is what we'll talk about in the next session. I'll see you there.